whether there's evidence or not, whether the guy's guilty or not, whether it's a false allegation, I'm seeing a lot of weak commands just kicking the person out and sending them to a board. My name is Michael Waddington and I am a criminal defense attorney. In this video I want to talk about some of what I'm seeing in the military court system after they brought in the Office of the Special Trial Counsel. As background real quick, practicing law since 2000, been in the military justice system for about that long. And so I've seen the old system, I've seen as we ramped up to the changes that were being made, and I'll tell you what we're seeing now. It's not like we expected. The Office of the Special Trial Counsel was brought in with this idea how they're gonna get out there, crack down all these sexual assaults, all these violent crimes, have this professional core of prosecutors doing justice. And one of the big factors that led to them, the OSTCs, those are like the super prosecutors that were put in place in December of 2023, was there was a lot of complaining in Congress. There was too many acquittals, not enough cases were being charged. They were claiming there wasn't enough professional prosecution of these sexual assault type cases in the military. So they created this system that got rid of the convening authority from a certain amount of cases, all the sexual assault ones, all the serious ones. Those were removed from the convening authority, who is not a lawyer, and now they're given to the prosecutors to make decisions. So what has happened? We thought, myself and a lot of my friends and my law partner, that we would start seeing more cases being prosecuted, just prosecuted in a more professional, aggressive manner. Aggressive in the sense like they're going to come at these guys hard and try to get convictions. But what we have been seeing is the opposite. Now, I'm not saying that every OSTC office is the same way, but we kind of have our pulse on all the branches of the service, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps. We get calls from all these folks. We are getting people that are under investigation, that are pending investigation, and they're just kind of sitting out there and waiting. We're seeing two things. There's a lot of hurry up and wait. We got this investigation going. The person's under investigation, and the law enforcement's taking forever to investigate the case. And then when it finally gets to the Office of the Special Trial Counsel, what I'm seeing is they're not doing anything with it. This year, I've had a ton of cases, a bunch, that are sexual assaults. I'm seeing about 2 out of the 10 being brought to a court-martial. So what's happening to those other cases that a year ago would have been going to a court-martial? What's happening, one thing is called deferral. So the Office of the Special Trial Counsel gets the first crack at it, and they can look at it and be like, hey, do we want to prosecute this person for this, for example, sexual assault? They could take the case and prosecute it, or they can defer it or kick it back to the command to take other action, like a separation or no action. So what we're seeing is a mix of this. Almost all of them are being deferred or kicked back to the command, which means there are not a lot of cases that I'm seeing that are getting preferred, which could be a good thing for someone who's accused. Maybe. But what if the person's being falsely accused? If they're being falsely accused and the allegation goes forward and the Office of the Special Trial Counsel rightfully and correctly declines to prosecute and they kick it back to the command, what is the command going to do? And this is the big problem that I'm seeing. They're not prosecuting these cases that are bogus, that don't have evidence, or that are false allegations. But they won't necessarily say that. They'll just decline to prosecute or defer prosecuting. So it goes back to the command. And we're back in the situation where we were a year ago. These commanders who are politically correct, meaning that they're going to do whatever the political whims of the Senate and Congress are, and they're going to take those cases and they're not going to dismiss them. They're not going to just let that service member continue on their career. That is not what I'm seeing. So what I'm seeing is instead of going to a court-martial, they're giving them the command, and the command is kicking the person out, whether there's evidence or not, whether the guy's guilty or not, whether he's innocent, whether it's a false allegation. I'm seeing a lot of weak commands just kicking the person out and sending them to a board. I've had a few people that aren't even entitled to a board. So I'm talking people that are accused of sex crimes. So if you're accused of a sex crime, that carries felony conviction, sex offender registration, jail time, mandatory jail time, and you're investigated and they don't have evidence to prosecute you, they should probably let you move on with your life. But that's not happening. So I have guys now that have maybe 2 years in and they're getting kicked out with general under honorable conditions discharges for sexual related misconduct, which is unheard of. The guy either did it or he didn't do it. You either have proof and evidence or you don't. You don't just kick a guy out because he's being accused and there's no evidence to back him up. That violates due process. The other thing I'm seeing is, let's say you're an E7, E8, and you're entitled to a board if they're going to kick you out. But what they're doing is they're taking those folks and they're giving them things like an Article 15 for sexual assault or abusive sexual contact and railroading them and finding them guilty, even with no evidence. Then they're turning around and sending them to a board. If you go to a board, the standard of proof is fairly low. It's preponderance of the evidence. It's lower than a court-martial, so they think it's easier to win these. And it actually is easier to win them. So what you end up having is someone with no evidence, possibly a false allegation, possibly innocent, no prosecution, kicked back to the command. The command is doing the politically correct thing and just kicking everyone out, whether there's proof or not.